So the next thing to fix on this Mercedes is actually the dashboard lights, which don't seem to work. So as I was driving home, it got dark and I couldn't see what was going on the dashboard. So that's great. So I've ordered up some white LEDs. These come from eBay. You could probably get from AliExpress for a lot cheaper, judging by the packet that they came in from eBay. But hey, I needed them quickly, so hopefully we're going to be able to push the clocks out of the dashboard using screwdrivers down the side of it. The instrument cluster, I don't think it seems to be actually screwed into anything. It just looks like it sort of maybe clips in or pushes in. So we're going to try and do that. Then we'll have a plug to remove and probably speedo cable to remove. Hopefully we can actually do it without doing that, and we can just tip the clocks sort of downwards, and the bulbs, I believe, are in the very top of the instrument cluster. There's only 2 of them, so hopefully it won't take too long to do it. So yeah, that's our instrument cluster there. You can see someone's actually already cracked it there, which is great. So that means I need to find a replacement. It looks like it's actually, I don't know, if you, the actual cover, the face, can't really see that, can you? The actual cover and the face bit there is actually separated slightly. So maybe someone's tried to remove it and they haven't managed it, but we'll see, because there seems to be a gap down the side of there and possibly there. So I've got my thinnest little flatted screwdriver that I've got, and we're just going to try and slide that in there, which doesn't fit, and we'll try and slide it in there, which also doesn't fit, does it? No. So someone's actually tried to remove this and I think sort of broken it, looking at it, which doesn't sort of instill good prospects for me doing it without breaking it. I mean, I can get all the way down there to the back of the clocks with a screwdriver. It's just a shame that that's kind of broken because I can't pull on it. So let's try it with a slightly bigger screwdriver. Yeah, so I can actually, I don't want to break anything. I believe it's just clipped in. I don't think it's actually physically screwed into anything. So yeah. Right, the next option is to remove this panel and get it from underneath and push it forwards, which is another option to do. I'll quickly try again with the screwdrivers, but to be honest with you, that crack there has put me off a little bit. I don't really like it. It does look like someone's tried to get this out previously to fix probably this problem that I'm having right now. Oh, are we moving? No, we're not moving. I don't want to damage like the actual surround too much, but yeah, I think the best option is to take this panel off here and go from there. And hopefully that'll do it. It probably won't, but let's hope. So with the steering column, the sort of under dashboard tray bit removed, it's 3 screws on the top of there for mine. They're underneath these little covers. And I also had a screw that's screwed in there. It looked like it should have had one in there, but it doesn't have one. And also, to add to the annoyance, we have this stupid thing here, an absolute ton of wiring that I don't know what it does. I don't know what that does either. But hopefully I can put my hand up there and get to the back of the clocks. Hopefully. And push them forwards is the plan. Let's see if we can. Right, so we have had success by pushing this corner outwards from behind. Actually, it's now coming out, which is good. With a bit of luck, we can get to everything we need to. And yeah, someone's obviously broken that and re-glued that at some point. But yeah, as you can tell, AliExpress packaging. But if it works, it works. So, okay, so we've replaced the bulbs and we've just loosely pushed this back in. We've checked every fuse and we still have absolutely no dashboard lights. So the next operation after that will be to remove this completely, check for any earths that are connected to the wiring, and then work out which wire goes from the illumination of this to this switch here, and then check that, because it could be that this switch, when it turns, it's not, you know, it obviously puts the headlights on because they work fine, but you know, like the bottom lights on the dashboard all light up. It's just literally the illumination for the dials. So we need to work out what connects this switch here to say headlights are on to the illumination of this. And at worst come to worst, I can then figure out the wire for that, and if I can't wire it back up to the switch or get the switch to work, I can just put that to an ignition live. So alright, the dashboard lights will always be on, but at least it'll actually work, so I can see what's happening in the dark, which would be more important. So what I've ended up doing is I've brought the actual instrument cluster into the house, which is very easy to remove. You've got one plug there, and then you've got a 10mm pipe that you have to take off, which is for your oil pressure, for your gauge, and then this is your speedo. It just unscrews. There's another plug on there, and then you've got a 1-pin plug that sits on there. But yeah, make sure that pin that connects there doesn't touch that, because you will create some sparks. You don't want to do that. But anyway, so originally on the back of here was a thing called a rheostat, which is this, which is the dimmer. And as you can see there, it's very corroded, and actually the spring inside it is knackered. So what this does here, this clips on the back of it, and as you turn that there, that rotates around there, and this little piece here, which has that very corroded bit on there, goes across the spring there, which adjusts the voltage, which is then spread between these two plates. So these two plates are connected to the back of the dials via these two pins here. So what I've done now is I've bypassed all this. I've installed a very temporary piece of wire to test it, and if this does work, I'm just going to solder it together. So I've joined the two pins which are there and there, which is what would have been there and there, completely bypassing that. So the theory is that if I plug this plug back in the car, the illumination should come on. That's the hope, and we're about to go and find out. Right, so we're still sort of tracing this illumination issue, and basically we've come to the conclusion that there was a thing called a rheostat which connected on the back of there between those two pins there. That was corroded, so we've removed that. And then what I did was I then decided that I was going to add a little jumper wire in between the pins on the back of there to there, so that would send the voltage across without having the rheostat, because the rheostat is basically the dimmer, so it just changes the voltage for the brightness. So I did that and it still didn't work. And then come to actually look closely at it, and you can see there, there's a trace there on the board. It's a bit knackered. Why are you not zooming in? Yeah, so you can see there's a trace there on the board which doesn't look the best. And then further up on there you can see there's one actually broken there. So what we're going to do is we're going to solder a permanent wire between there and there, which should take the voltage from there, bypassing the rheostat. And then because this is looking a bit rubbish on there as well, we're going to join this end to the red end up there, because that's where that goes. If you follow that trace down, you can see it runs around the back of there, back to there. So we're going to bypass that trace, solder directly from there to that bit of solder, so that should cover that. And then this one that goes here, this is an earth. So it's actually earth through the body of the cluster there, because the back of the where's it at? The back of the speedo part is actually metal, so it's earth through that. So I'm going to try and solder from there, from that bit there. I'm going to try and solder onto what's left up there of that trace, and because that probably may or may not work, I don't know, we're going to also additionally add another piece of wire that's going to go from there. It can bypass, well, it can go out through this hole here, because this is where the rheostat used to connect to the that bit there, basically the bit that you turn to adjust it. That's no longer there, so I can run a bit of wire out through there and then run it along the back of the clocks, and I'm going to take it to this top bolt hole there. So when I put the bolt back in for that, it's going to have an additional piece of wire that goes to there, which will also earth that. But and I'm hoping that's going to take the earth that would run sort of between there and there. That's going to take over from that, so then that's actually earth to there as well. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So this is the plan. I've got a soldering iron. I'm not very good at soldering, so we're going to see how we get on with this. But first things first, I'm going to bridge those two there, and then take that one to the red one, and then I'm going to work out how to test continuity with my multimeter. Like I say, I'm really not that good at electronics or any form like that, so I'm just going to have a go. So if it looks terrible, but it works, I'm happy. But if it looks terrible and you know, you want to shout abuse, feel free to leave me some abuse, because I'm a complete novice at this. So we're just going to have a go. Right, so first bit's done. So I've soldered across there, and I've added that one to the red one up there. But like I say, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just hoping that this is all going to work. I really hope it does. Otherwise I'll have to take it to somebody else or buy a replacement. But the problem is I can't find a replacement one that has the economy bit on it. I don't know if that matters, but it doesn't have a rev counter either when I look at the replacement clocks. I mean, I can actually just replace this part and hope that the plug all wires up together. It should, maybe it will, I don't know. But so with a bit of luck I can fix this. If not, I'll have to just buy a replacement. But that's the first bit done. So the next bit is going to be a bit more tricky because I'm going to have to try and solder onto that little tiny little bit there. Don't really know how I'm going to do that. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. But I'll go. Hopefully I don't burn the bloody other side of it. But I've got a really thin piece of wire to do this one with, which I've now lost, but I do have somewhere. Thin piece of orange wire, which will hopefully be enough to do it somewhere around here. Oh, I've lost it. I'll have to find it. Hopefully be enough to do that anyway. And like I say, we'll also add another wire from there out the back to that bolt there underneath there, which is, I think it's one of them ones. Yeah, it'll be one of them ones. And that will hopefully earth it to the bolt also. And then we can try it, I guess, and see what happens. But I couldn't actually manage to solder onto that trace. It just didn't want to work. Maybe my soldering iron stuff or my skills just aren't good enough. So I've gone from that earth point there. I'm going to loop that round and add that back into there, which will hopefully continue whatever the circuit was that went from there all the way through. It'll bypass that so that that knackered bit there is actually getting earthed using the wire from there to there. That's my theory. Who knows? But we're just going to try it. What's the worst that can happen? I'm now going to test the continuity to make sure that I've got power from this side here all the way up to there to make sure that's actually a circuit. Hopefully it is, because that's one of the things that I didn't have. I wasn't sure if it was working or not. And then we'll put it all back together and hope for the best. And there we are, back together, ready to go back in the car. Hopefully it'll work now. If the illumination doesn't work, I've tested the continuity between what would have been the voltage from one side all the way to these bulbs here, and that seems to have voltage continuity. So that should technically work. So if it doesn't work, the problem may be actually from the headlight switch, which is the next thing to look at. So as you can see, this is cracked. This was like this when I got it. A little piece missing off it on there as well. So at some point I'd like to find another cover, like another sort of front part to this. But hopefully the actual gauges work again properly, because I'll actually show you in the back quickly. On this one, the clock here, this here is a permanent live. Now the car itself, the wire has like a plastic spade, a plastic cover over the spade connector, which was broken. So as I've pulled it, you can see on there, this is 12 volt. So as I pulled this off, there, it actually arced in the back of here. And that there is what caused that wire to burn in there on the circuit board, or I think that's what caused it anyway. So hopefully that's now fixed with this extra piece of bridged wire, which we don't know until we plug it in. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually tape up the connector for that. I'm not going to plug it in at first until I know it's going to work, and then I'm going to have to find a sleeve or something to put over it, or just disconnect the battery, whatever. Maybe just disconnect the battery and then go from there so that it all properly works. Oh look, I've maybe nipped that wire. I have to sort that out before I do this. Right, so let's go and test this tomorrow now, because it's nearly midnight, so we'll return to this tomorrow. Right, so my soldering didn't really work. I'll probably have to come back and have a look at that again and try and fix that board properly. But what I've ended up having to do is buy another set of dials. So I got this set of dials here, and they came with kilometers, and instead of a rev counter, it just came with a clock. It's kind of a cool clock. So because of the way these dials work, as you've just seen, they're all individual pieces. Basically I took the left hand side of the clocks that I need, which is the circuit board bits that I need, because the one's broken, and then I put the mile an hour speedo in and my rev counter and clock in. So I'll show you what that looks like now. There you go. So obviously we're missing the economy gauge. We used to have an economy gauge on there, and as you can see, like, they've got yellow needles, they've got white, sort of whitish needles. It's got that big silver nipple in the middle, which these don't have. So it is ever so slightly different, but if it's going to work, I don't really care, because it's going to work. So we're going to have to take this oil pipe off there, And then another thing I'm going to do, actually, in case I have a problem like I did when I took the clocks out, because it was me that caused this issue, I'm going to run some electrical tape around that connector there for the clock, in case that wire touches it, just so if it does touch anything, it's just going to touch the electrical tape, and it should be okay, we hope. But yes, I've got to remove this pipe here. As you can see, this has already had a wire bridging the rheostat, so it's obviously had a problem already. Hopefully that's it fixed. And yeah, speedo to go. That's obviously, these bits are mine, and that's the new bits. That's the new circuit board. It's actually different because this plug here is actually down here on mine, but I'm hoping it's not really a problem and all the wires are going to be the same. We'll find out anyway. Right. So it does seem to be working, but I'm not sure if the fuel gauge is working. Everything else is alright. Well, I haven't seen the temperature move yet, but oil pressure's working, rev counter's working, the clock works, but so I'm just a bit nervous of the fuel gauge not working. Can't remember how much fuel I had in before. I think it was around about a quarter to half a tank, but everything else seems to work. The backlight actually does work. It's too light to show you that, but it does actually work properly now, so that's good. And because the car's been sat for a month, it actually started up no problem. Also good. So hopefully that may be another thing fixed. You never know. On to the next problem, which I'm not sure what I'm going to try and tackle next. I'll think about it and decide. I might just go and drive it and enjoy it for a bit.